I was born in Hawaii and then moved. My parents just kind of got the bug to move a lot. And so, but originally I lived in Hawaii because my dad was in a submariner. So, so we were in the Navy for the first 3 years, and then we left and moved to Oregon and then California. I've been making art since, yeah, like 8, or I guess I just started once I started drawing on in a homeschooling project. My mom was like, I just started drawing all the time. And I'm really grateful because it was such a great outlet. I have a sister. She's only 15 months older than me, but we're really different. She has 2 kids, and she is living in London right now. But her kids are like in their mid-20s, and so I like being an auntie. It's made it easier for me because I've had more time, so I could devote more time to my work. And live in the city and do things my way. I've been here in my apartment building for like 13 years. I help manage the building, so it has given me really great rent. And so sometimes I would love to have more space because it's a studio apartment, but it has a decent amount of space for a studio because I have a hallway and I have a bench in there, and I have a bench in my kitchen for my polymer. And then I solder in my hall closet. Yeah, I made my first line of jewelry actually in high school in metal. It was just wire drawings basically. And I actually had more like stores back then than I have had as an adult. I took a class with Diane Falkenhagen. I took her class because she was doing like alternative materials class, and polymer happened to be one of them. And this was back in like 2002, I think. And so I learned polymer as an aside, really. It wasn't what I was like wanting to learn necessarily. But so then I actually really liked being able to do images on like pearl polymer, because it kind of brings life in and then light into the image. And so I literally did that for like 7.5 years, just setting it in silver settings. And so it was just flat, straightforward. And I didn't know anything about polymer really, just enough to roll it out and bake it. Yeah, I love images, and I still use them in my work, even though it's more abstract at this point. Oh, but how I got working in polymer the way I work now is actually Cynthia Tubes. She's a friend of mine.
Sure.
And a friend of mine introduced me to her. Well, actually, Chuck Domatrovich does her metalsmithing.
Right.
For her like really extravagant projects and stuff. He's done a lot of work with her. So he introduced me to her and Dan, and we've been friends ever since then, and she's amazing. So I helped her in a class at Danica locally because I was like, I'd like to learn more. She's like, well, then come and help my class, and then you can just audit the class. And so I did that a couple times, and then I started to really like it, but I had to get over like, this idea of what polymer is, because I had a hard time with it being plastic, and I still wish it wasn't plastic, but it's such a great material. And there's so much you can go so many directions with it. And I love that.
Your most recent stuff is kind of conical, or
Yeah, a lot more cones, and these guys are they're like a cone, but they're created from an odd shape. But they have like they almost feel like a sail in one direction to me.
Are you a sailor?
No, we used to be when I lived on a sailboat, but I ended up with this style because I like to use my scrap. I'll like grab it and And then I'll just be like, okay, well, what if I did this and folded it over this way? And then all of a sudden I got this like really, really unusual shape. A little piece on the side of my table that ended up a certain way. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, hey, that's cool. And then I'll set it aside and I'll come back to it. And then that might like lead to a whole new type of work. But it's a fun way to work though, too, because it keeps you open to possibilities.
Right. And I see you're at a number of, you're at the art museum in there.
Yeah, Seattle Art Museum in the shop. And I'm at Bobby Medlin, which is a lovely store. And Bobby is a treasure. It's basically like a jewelry store, antique store, vintage store. I'm also at Waterworks Gallery up in Friday Harbor.
How was the pandemic for you then?
Well, I thankfully actually had a job as a tour guide, a food tour guide,
A food tour guide.
a gourmet food tour guide, and which was a lot of fun. I love eating really good food, and they we all got let go as soon as everything happened in March 2020, and then within a month they completely pivoted and created a company that did specialty boxes of food products from Pike Place Market, including flowers and bread and all kinds of stuff. It was a really great thing. But so I was actually thankfully employed the whole time. Going out to get like a nice glass of wine and some French food or something is kind of how I reset. And but during the pandemic, it was so hard because I'm like, I can't go and reset. And the city is different, and all the fabulous energy that used to be here, it was gone. And it was a rough 1 year of not doing much at all. Came out of that like last fall and started focusing on jewelry full time for several months. Thankfully, I got the website up, which was really nice to finally have that done and to feel really good about it. And it was good to focus on being full time because that definitely is a mindset. When you're part time, you think a certain way about your work, and then when you're full time, you're like, oh my God, how can I like cover all the bases?
Yeah.
I've been actually going back to work to just kind of so that I'm not taking from savings, because I wasn't making a lot of money. I just was making progress, but not a lot of money.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I'm working at a school in my neighborhood, and that I'm going to do some aftercare classes for them soon. So I'll be doing a polymer jewelry class for kids. It's
Okay.
a really cool school. It's actually for kids with ADD and learning disabilities. And I have ADD and I had learning disabilities growing up. So I was like, that would be a great connection. I'm also part of a really cool jewelers group here. And so there's several professional jewelers in the group. And I watch kind of them and get encouragement from them. My sales are mostly coming from my mailing list. And
You're-
so, yeah, my sales aren't really coming from my website. I mean, they're on my website, but they're coming from people who I reached out to on my mailing list.
Who did your website? Who did you
Oh,
contact?
I did.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah. I built it all with Wix, which was actually surprisingly easy.